Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So it's time to give you an update on my container garden. So come along and I'll show you exactly how it's progressing. So we're going to get quite a lot of things planted today, and we're also going to get our first harvest from our little container garden. So you saw me set this up just over a month ago, probably about 6 weeks ago, and now we're going to get our first harvest, and we're going to get loads of things planted up, and we're going to be ready for the season ahead. Whenever you sweep up things on concrete, just a little tip, that all of this can go straight into a veg planter or a veg bed, because most of it, this is what rock dust is, so it's got a lot of minerals that your plants will really enjoy. So I'm just going to pull this bath over a little bit, because what I ideally wanted was the bath over this side, but I couldn't get it over this side because of I had loads of stuff here. So not the smartest idea trying to pull a full bath, but it's only partially full. We're going to fill it the rest of the way today. So if you remember, what I've stuck in this bath is loads of kitchen scraps, loads of garden waste, and I've just topped it off with a little bit of soil. I'm going to completely top that off now. I'm filling it up with my homemade compost. I want you to see some of the stuff that I use as compost. Look at this. See, a lot of people are complaining at the moment that some of the shop bought compost is quite rough. But look at this, it's got big twigs in it, it's got leaves in it that are still whole. It's still quite rough, but that's good, because what happens with that is a lot of the breaking down happens in the bed. So don't worry about stuff like that. It might not be any good for seed sowing, but that's where you need to sift it down and be a bit more careful. But when you're planting plants, this is perfect. So there we go, it's in. And one of the things that I'm not going to get to do, I don't think I'll get to do it this year, is I wanted to clad this bath and make it look a little bit nicer and a little bit more suitable for a garden, you know, a family home. You can see the amount of life in here. You'll never get this from a shop bought compost. Look at the worms just bouncing about. Absolutely beautiful. So we've got more compost that we're taking up. Compost here is a little bit finer. It's a little bit more refined. And some of the stuff that I'm going to be planting into this bathtub will appreciate a finer compost, because we're going to be doing some seed sowing on the top. So let's get this topped off with some of this really nice stuff. There we go. There we go, beautiful. So just like before, I'm going to get back to filling these little twigs. Everything goes into the bottom. Nice one, put it down somewhere. A bit of hedge prunings into the bottom, lovely. So I've been collecting kitchen scraps, and here's what, so this is all going in now. A nice layer of kitchen scraps. So this is just a recap of how I do these containers, just in case anyone hasn't seen it before. It saves so much on compost by doing it this way. Okay, lovely. So you filled a container pretty much halfway without having to worry about using compost. On the last video, someone asked, why do I layer it rather than mix it? Now, if you mix it, you can't control where the things that are breaking down are, and you can't manage it in that way. Another question that was asked was, what do I do when the soil level drops as the material decomposes? Now, both these questions tie in together. Now it's layered up rather than mixed. The way the nutrients work is you'll have the nutrients from the compost break down, go down into the lower levels, and it'll hold into those lower levels, especially into that wood level at the bottom. Also, you've got much more controlled level of breakdown. So as it's breaking down, it's all breaking down at one level. So it's going to drop pretty much in one level, rather than you ending up with holes and sinkholes and stuff like that. So that's another reason. So here we go. That's 2 more containers filled, ready for planting. So the way that we're going to design this garden is on a keyhole style. I'll have another container here as I fill it up, just like I've filled these 2 up. I'm going to have a row of containers down this side. And these containers are things that I've already planted up. So if you can have a look here, and I'll show you the way I planted this container. We're going to get our very first harvest as well. I've just put this container down. I'll put it down back to front, and I'll tell you why it's back to front. You might see the taller plants at the front here. You might see what looks like the taller plants here at this side. What's now going to be the front. But in actual fact, the taller plants are at the back. So here, let's get our harvest. So we've got some lovely pak choys that we're going to pick now. And we can have these for our iftar. That one's been eaten by slugs a little bit, but we can deal with that. Just under 6 weeks, I've got this lovely harvest of pak choy. Absolutely beautiful. Now come and have a look at this very carefully. I'm going to show you the planting method here. Now I've got broad beans at the back, so I've got 2, 4, 5 broad bean plants at the very back. And what I did was, when I planted these pak choys, I planted these pak choys as plug plants, so things that I'd already sown beforehand. And then I undersowed it with lettuce seeds. So the pak choys have now harvested, the lettuce seeds have come up. Now they're going to be exposed to light, and they're just going to take over this box now. So this is one of the things that you should be doing with containers, is maximising your space efficiency. So anytime you've got a little bit of space, just use it as much as you can. Once I've finished harvesting all this lettuce, I'm just going to add another layer of compost and plant my next plants in there. But what I'm planting at the moment is low nutrient crops. So when I top this off with more compost, a courgette plant or a couple of tomatoes is going to go into here. Because by the time we're into June, mid-June, when we're ready to plant courgettes and tomatoes and things outside, all that goodness from all that material that I'd added in, all the unbroken down stuff, that's going to have broken down. The kitchen scraps will have turned into beautiful lush soil. The wood chips will still be there, so don't worry about that. But we'll have some really nice stuff, material broken down, that the tomatoes and the courgettes can feed off. Now this one over here, this is a box that I planted carrots into, with stuff like root crops like carrots and long radishes, not the short type, but the long radishes. I wouldn't do this sort of method that you've seen me do with the kitchen scraps and everything. In these kind of boxes, I put maybe an inch of wood chip at the very bottom, and then I do 50% compost, 50% sharp sand, and I sieve that really finely. And you can see my carrot seedlings coming up in this 50-50 mix. You don't want a highly nutrient dense soil for carrots. You just want something light and really friable. Sharp sand, builder's sand, any type of sand that you can get hold of. 50-50 sand. If it is builder's sand, just give it a wash beforehand. And the reason that I'm planting lettuces into this one rather than the one behind me is because I can plant a sprinkling of radishes into there before I get to the crops that I want to actually plant. My main crops into those. So there we go, get some of this curly lettuce in. In a bed like this, you might have problems with cats. And that's one of the problems that I've had with my bed that I showed you that I planted coriander into in the last video. And what happens is the cats come and scratch it up, and they poo in it. They kill your plants when they scratch it up, but the poo can actually cause you illnesses. So do be careful of that. So if you have got salad leaves or things that you can actually eat the leaves for, just make sure you give it a good wash when you take it in. That is a health warning. I wouldn't be so concerned for fruiting plants like tomatoes about cat poo and stuff like that, but with definitely for anything that you are going to actually eat the leaves of, then that's something to be careful of. And the only major the only real deterrent for cats that are found in a bed like this is cover. So it does need some kind of protection. And the plants will do the covering once they're established, but it's the meantime that you've got to give it some kind of protection. And my wife's actually just given me an absolutely brilliant suggestion. Seeing as though this is a salad trough, then I'm just going to sow a row of spring onions. And look at the way I'm planting. I'm planting shorter stuff at the front and not taller stuff at the back. And that's exactly what I've done with this trough at the back, is I've planted all my lettuces and my leaves, and then the broad beans that are going to get to this sort of height at the back. I'll be introducing strawberries into this garden like I did with my neighbour's trough, and I'll introduce some raspberries as well, and I'll show you how I mix those in. I'm really struggling for time because of the election campaign and everything, so I don't think I'll be able to get this looking the way I want it to, but it doesn't look too bad. I don't think it looks way too bad, and we've got it into a nice order. We'll get those, once we get everything planted up, and the greenery will take over a little bit, but so far it's looking good. So there's a little update on my container garden and how I'm planting and how I'm going about planting. In the next video you'll see me doing a lot more direct sowing and maybe planting out some of those more tender vegetables once it gets a little bit warmer. So I'm going to leave it there for this one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.